Can you hear the echoes of a past you can't quite leave behind? The air feels heavy, thick with unspoken memories, as city lights flicker outside a cluttered apartment. Rebecca's fingers tremble over a worn family photo, the scent of coffee and old paper filling her senses. What's more painful, the silence from her family, or the ache of her own unresolved identity? When duty calls her back into the storm of her life, can she confront the ghosts that threaten to define her? Or will they finally break her? In a world of sharp edges and long shadows, every choice could be her last chance at belonging. They thought I wouldn't show up. They thought shame could keep me away. I stared at the invitation for almost an hour. It sat there on the metal desk like it didn't know what it was carrying. A white envelope, embossed edges, my name printed in full. Lieutenant General Rebecca Cole. Whoever addressed it must have done so from a list they clearly didn't know I hadn't been Rebecca to this family for years. The seal on the back wasn't broken yet, but I already knew what was inside. I'd heard whispers, email forwards that reached my aide, and offhand comments from a former classmate. But it wasn't real until that moment. Haley was getting married, and not just married. She was marrying Major Andrew Foster. The irony was almost surgical. 6 years. That's how long it had been since my mother's voice last crossed state lines to find me. Not a birthday, not a condolence when my second deployment nearly took my hearing. Just silence. And now this elegant little punch to the ribs signed not with love or warmth, but one word in that familiar script. Behave. The base in Stuttgart was unusually quiet that afternoon. Outside my quarters, the wind pushed against the flagpole, making it creak in defiance. Inside, the room held the familiar sterility of discipline, the kind I had built my bones around. A steel bed, a row of pressed uniforms, a locked trunk with contents no one would touch. I turned the invitation over in my hands like it might change shape. When the knock came, it was a crisp double wrap. Simmons entered without waiting. "General," he said, glancing at the envelope. I heard. Of course he had. Simmons had ears like radar and the patience of granite. He took a seat without asking. We didn't talk much about personal matters, but he had known me since I was a fresh-faced captain with too much grit and not enough trust. "You going?" he asked. I didn't answer. Instead, I slid the invitation across the table. Rebecca stands at the edge of her dimly lit living room, a quiet storm inside her. Her hands tighten around a worn photograph, memories swirling like a restless wind. The scent of rain still lingers in the air, mixing with the heaviness of unspoken truths. Her heart pounds, fists clenched as she stares at the flickering shadows on the wall. A sudden, firm knock at the door shatters the silence. Heart racing, she pauses. Who's there, at this hour? Why now? Her mind races through the past, faded family smiles, broken bonds, the unspoken question she's carried for years. Is this the moment she's been dreading? Or the one that might finally bring closure? A deep breath. She approaches the door, but before she opens it, the screen goes black. Who is waiting on the other side? And what revelation awaits that could change everything? The shadows deepen, and her story hangs in the balance. Hope or heartbreak? That's the choice she's about to face. The air was thick with the scent of rain and rust, a lingering memory of that night in Helmand. I can still hear the distant chaos. Explosions rumbling like thunderstorms, shrapnel tearing through the air, screams mixing with the blaring siren of chaos. Crawling through debris, each movement felt like a battle. Pain searing through my shoulder, dirt clogging my throat, the sharp sting of broken glass. And then Andrew's whisper, faint but clear, "I owe you." That moment, etched into my soul, bittersweet and heavy with sacrifice. Now I hold a wedding invitation. New beginnings shadowed by old wounds. The family's expectations pressed down, suffocating. Will this be a chance to finally heal? Or just another reminder of what was lost? The weight of it all makes me pause. Just before I open the door, I wonder, who's waiting? How much of my past is about to collide with my present? This story isn't just about a wedding. It's about loyalty, identity, and the courage to confront what haunts us. Because some scars, are they physical or buried deep inside, never truly fade. The air was thick with the scent of rain, a reminder of the storm brewing inside Rebecca Cole. She sat in her sterile apartment, hands gripping a worn photograph, memories swirling like restless leaves in the wind. Her heart raced as she stared at the flickering shadows on the wall. A sudden knock at the door shattered the silence. Who could it be at this hour? Her mind raced through the past. Faded family smiles, broken bonds, and the weight of unspoken questions. Was this the moment she dreaded, or the one that could finally bring closure? Taking a deep breath, she approached the door, her heart pounding. But just before she opened it, the screen went black. Who was waiting on the other side? What revelation could change everything? The shadows deepened, and her story hung in the balance. Hope or heartbreak? That's the choice she was about to face. As she stood there, the memories flooded back. Just the crawl of her elbows grinding into gravel, every breath tasting like ash. She remembered disarming a device with trembling fingers, Andrew's quiet cry echoing in her mind. Now she was on a flight from Stuttgart to Dallas, staring out at a sky that felt too soft for the chaos in her heart. The seat beside her was empty. She had paid extra for that. The flight attendant had offered champagne, but she asked for water instead. Somewhere over the Atlantic, she closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to block out the weight of what she was flying toward. Not war, not combat, but something trickier: family. The plane landed early, and Dulles Airport smelled of overused hand sanitizer and fresh wax. Moving through customs was easy. Her military ID cleared her like a breeze. Just as she stepped into the arrivals hall, her phone vibrated. An unknown number. She almost let it ring out of spite, but curiosity won. "Hello?" Her voice was steady, unreadable. Well, you actually came," said Haley, her estranged sister. The sweetness in her voice masked a core of steel. "I didn't say I was coming to celebrate," Rebecca replied, walking toward the escalator. "You didn't say anything for 6 years," Haley chirped too brightly. "So, this is progress." Rebecca felt the tension rise. "I came because I was invited." "Right, because Mom guilted you into it." Silence hung between them. "Andrew's looking forward to seeing you," Haley continued, her tone teasing. "You two always had chemistry." Rebecca stopped mid-step, her heart racing. "That's not funny." "I didn't mean it to be," Haley said, but Rebecca could hear the smile in her voice, the same one she used at school dances, hiding her sharpest claws. "Is that all?" Rebecca asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Just then, a firm knock echoed through her apartment. The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. She opened the door, and there stood her brother, a forgiving smile on his face. The warm glow of the hallway light revealed scars she hadn't known he carried. In that instant, the silent tension shifted from family conflict to an unforeseen bridge of understanding. Could this be the moment that challenged her perceptions of identity and the broken past she thought she'd left behind? Hope flickered amidst the chaos, igniting a spark of possibility. "I just wanted to check. Are you showing up in full uniform? It's not exactly the vibe." I ended the call before she could reply. Outside, Virginia was waking up in early spring. The drive to Alexandria winded past neighborhoods lined with dogwoods and cherry blossoms. So perfect. Almost like a postcard someone sent to remind you life really can look like this. I didn't take the freeway. No, I let the car drift through those familiar side streets, the ones I used to pedal down back when I was still Becky, before adulthood turned everything into a war zone. Back then, scraped knees and pride lost in a fall were the worst scars I carried. As I pulled into my mom's cul-de-sac, I noticed Mrs. Langford. The neighbor who keeps her hydrangeas pridefully perfect, watering her garden, hose coiled like a question mark at her feet. She squinted, tilting her head toward the car. "Rebecca," she called out. I stepped out, adjusting my duffel on one shoulder. "Hi, Mrs. Langford." She blinked, surprised. "Well, my goodness, you're still in the military." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Yes, ma'am." She nodded slowly, eyes flickering over my uniform, my posture, the silence. "I thought maybe. After everything, you might have left." I shrugged. "Some of us stay." Without waiting for a reply, I brushed past her hedges. The house still looked the same, frozen in time, too perfect, too polished, like it's trying to hide something. The shutters freshly painted, the driveway swept, a facade that screamed, "Nothing changes here." Only the porch light flickered uneasily, like even the electricity was holding its breath. I rang the doorbell. A moment. Then footsteps. The door swung open, and the smell washed over me first. Lemon polish, that unmistakable signature of my mother's house. Every surface was scrubbed till it gleamed with disapproval. Barbara stood there in beige slacks, a pearl collar around her neck. Her hair was pulled tight, every strand in place. Her eyes flicked over my uniform. The medals, the rank, the silence between us thickening. "Please, don't ruin this for Haley." They used to say my silence was disrespectful. But now, it's the only thing keeping the explosion in check. The scent of engine oil and gunmetal filled the air, mixing with a sharp tang of adrenaline. I crouched behind that battered vehicle, heart pounding like a war drum, fingertips tracing the cold, unforgiving metal. Distant explosions echoed in my mind, pulling me back to a night when duty overrode fear. Flashback, headlights slicing through the night, the weight of my uniform anchoring me to a mission I didn't fully understand. Every sacrifice I made was silenced in moments like this, eyes fixed on the horizon, knowing I'd have to leave behind more than just danger. I'd left parts of myself scattered in those dark streets. That silence, that resolve, became my armor. But here I am, years later. The echoes still haunt me. I wonder, have I truly chosen between the life I fought for and the one I've left behind? Now, standing here, I realize the battlefield isn't always out there. Sometimes it's within. And reconciling the two? That's the fight that never ends. A salad fork, a dessert spoon, a knife too dull to draw blood, yet sharp enough for pretense. My silence wasn't submission. It never had been. But in this house, with this family, silence felt like a threat. Wilkins tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "Wait a minute. Afghanistan, 2012. Phobe Kalma." I didn't blink. "Yes, sir." His mouth opened as if he might say something, then closed again. He glanced at Barbara. She gave the tiniest shake of her head. He turned back to his plate. I let the silence grow, spoon clinks and throat clearings filling the void. No one asked me a question. No one paused to include me. I could have been a well-dressed ghost, but even a ghost leaves a chill. The server finally reached my side of the table with the wine. I took the glass without a word. Haley turned toward me, her eyes glinting with the thrill of performance. "So, how long are you here for, Becky? Or are you on call to guard a missile silo or something?" A smirk rippled down the table. I took a sip, let it settle, then set the glass down slowly. "The people I guard," I said, my voice calm but deliberate, "outrank this entire room." A silence bloomed. Not loud, not angry, just still. Even the chandelier seemed to hold its breath. No one laughed. For the first time, they didn't know where to place me, and that terrified them. My name wasn't on the seating chart. Neither was my title. It was printed on thick pearl cardstock laid out on a brass easel just inside the church foyer. Table by table, name by name, I scanned downward past cousins and plus ones, former neighbors. I found nothing. No Rebecca, no General Cole, just silence printed in floral font. I stood there longer than I meant to, watching as other guests filed past me, murmuring pleasantries, adjusting corsages, brushing invisible lint from lapels. A woman in lavender heels reached around me and tapped the board. "Oh, table 8, near the stage," she squealed to her partner. The air thickened with unspoken words, each clink of cutlery echoing like a countdown. My heart raced as Haley's smirk cut through the tension, a taunt wrapped in casual familiarity. The room held its breath, shadows dancing on the walls, mirroring the conflict within. What would it take to break the silence? Would I reveal the truth or let the moment slip away? The question hung heavy, urging everyone to lean in closer, desperate for the next revelation. The scent of rain lingered outside, a reminder of the storm brewing within me. I could feel the weight of my past pressing down, the struggle for identity and belonging. I had fought battles far away, but this was the fight that never ended. Would I find my place among them, or would I remain a ghost, forever trapped in silence? I stood there, heart pounding, scanning the room. Table 12, tucked away in the corner by the fire exit. Just like Barbara had said that morning, casually dropping the news while handing me a plate of fruit I hadn't even asked for. "You'll be at table 12. Out of view for everyone's sake." No chance for a response. Now, in my dress blues, ribbons gleaming, hair pinned back with military precision, I felt like a statue in the church's entryway. The margins were my only company. The church was stunning, I'll give it that. White lilies framed the altar, and soft violin strings floated through the air. A woman in a headset adjusted pew ribbons with meticulous care. The stained glass glowed in warm golds and blues, a stark contrast to my cold reality. I was not part of this curated scene. Barbara approached, her presence a mix of practiced warmth and thinly veiled scrutiny. "You clean up well," she said, her eyes flicking over my medals as if they might taint the air. "Just remember, no press. If anyone asks what you do, say you're in logistics." I stared at her, my mind racing. I command brigades. But she tilted her head, reminding me, "You're here as a guest." Before I could respond, a photographer brushed past, camera clicking. He glanced at me, then turned to capture a group shot of Haley laughing with her bridesmaids. The lens didn't swing back. A voice behind me whispered, "Cold in here, huh?" An usher chuckled, adjusting his cufflinks. Or maybe it's just the bride's mother. I stayed silent. The ceremony was brief, efficient. Haley wore white, as if it had never been questioned. Andrew stood beside her, polished and unreadable. He scanned the pews, and when his eyes met mine, there was no smile, no nod, just a look that said everything and nothing. Then he looked away. No one mentioned the woman who dragged his bleeding body out of a minefield. Apparently, that wasn't part of the fairy tale. As I stood there, the scent of rain wafted in from outside, mingling with the floral arrangements. It was a reminder of the storm brewing within me. I had fought battles far away, but this was the fight that never ended. Would I find my place among them, or would I remain a ghost, forever trapped in silence? Then, as I stepped forward to reconcile with my estranged family, something caught my eye. Tucked inside my late father's military uniform was an unfamiliar photo. A young man stared back at me, his features strikingly similar to mine. Confusion washed over me, the soft glow of the church's stained glass casting shadows that mirrored my turmoil. What did this mean? My family's story wasn't just about estrangement. There was a hidden aspect of my identity, deliberately concealed all along. I had to confront this new truth about myself and my past. Would I embrace it, or would I let it slip away like so many moments before? The air thickened with unspoken words, and I felt the weight of my past pressing down, urging me to uncover the truth. The air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers, mingling with polished wood, a bittersweet reminder of family gatherings that felt like a lifetime ago. I stood at the edge of the crowd, the soft murmur of voices fading into a dull roar, drowning out the violin's melancholic notes. My heart raced, caught between the warmth of nostalgia and the chill of estrangement. Barbara's gentle touch lingered on my arm, a tether to the present, yet her words echoed in my mind, reminding me of the invisible walls that separated me from the family I once knew. I felt the weight of their gazes, a silent judgment pressing down like a heavy fog, suffocating my resolve. When the priest called for close family to come forward for the blessing, I hesitated, my instincts pulling me back. Barbara's hand was there before I could move, smoothing a wrinkle on my jacket. "Let's not confuse things," she whispered. "This is Haley's day." I looked down at her hand, then up the aisle. Haley and Andrew knelt, heads bowed, surrounded by family. I could have walked forward. No one would have stopped me. But that wasn't the point. They believed I didn't belong. So I sat. The violinist began a sentimental tune, and guests dabbed their eyes. At the reception, my table was tucked behind a pillar beside a catering door. The place card read, R. Cole in small font. No rank. The napkin was a shade paler than the others. An accident or a message? A waiter poured wine into the glasses around me but skipped mine. When I asked, he glanced at his list and said, "Oh, non-drinking guest." I didn't correct him. Across the room, Haley floated like a candle flame, posing for photos, twirling in white, kissing cheeks, hugging people with an intensity that felt like possession. Andrew kept one hand on her lower back, the other loosely curled around his glass. He never looked my way again. At one point, a woman asked if I worked in security for the venue. I told her yes. Then the toast began. Barbara raised her glass. To love and to loyalty. Two things this family values above all. The room chuckled politely. Haley beamed. Andrew shifted his weight. I took a sip of the wine I'd finally poured myself. It tasted expensive and empty. That was the moment I knew they didn't think I was family, but they were about to learn what kind of family I commanded. "She's just a gate guard. Who would want her?" my sister said into the microphone. The room erupted in laughter, but it wasn't gentle. It cut deep, a reminder of the chasm between us. Would I remain a ghost, forever trapped in silence, or would I find the courage to confront my past? The air thickened with unspoken words, urging me to uncover the truth about who I really was. Rebecca's breath catches as she unlocks the old family box in her dimly lit attic, dust swirling in the faint beam of her flashlight. A faded photo slips from the envelope, revealing a familiar face she thought she'd never see again. Her estranged brother, standing in front of a military base. The cold air prickles her skin, and her heart pounds with a mix of hope and dread. Before she can process, a sudden noise above makes her freeze. Has someone been watching her? Will she finally confront her past or risk losing everything again? It was a sharp laugh, the kind that slices before it echoes, the kind that lingers longer than it should. I used to hear it in locker rooms and around dinner tables, behind closed doors I wasn't supposed to know existed. This one just had better lighting and more expensive wine. Haley stood at the center of the ballroom, glowing beneath the chandeliers. Her dress shimmered like the event had been tailored around her. She held the mic in one hand and a champagne flute in the other, balanced like a queen with a crown and scepter. All eyes were on her. She lived for that. "Even my big sister made it here tonight, traveling all the way from wherever she's stationed now," she said sweetly, scanning the room. "Guarding doors for greatness," she grinned, turning slightly toward my table. "Everyone give a round of applause for the silent century in our lives." More laughter erupted, a few polite claps. One or two guests shifted uncomfortably, but most just smiled and raised their glasses, oblivious or worse, complicit. Barbara chimed in from her table, her voice crisp with authority. "She's the shame of this family, but at least she made it on time." That did it. The whole room tilted with amusement. I rose, not quickly, not in anger, but slowly, steadily, like something inevitable unfolding. Andrew was already watching me. He hadn't laughed, hadn't smiled, just observed, like someone might watch a storm gathering over calm water. Haley's smile faltered for half a breath, just enough to register. Then she lifted the mic again. "Oh, come on," she laughed. "It's a joke. Lighten up, Rebecca. You always took everything too seriously." So Andrew moved. He stepped forward. Deliberate, not rushed, not hesitant, just decided. Conversation stilled mid-sentence. Utensils paused mid-air. Every photographer pivoted lenses, catching motion in a scene they hadn't scripted. The air thickened with unspoken words, urging me to uncover the truth about who I really was. Would I remain a ghost, forever trapped in silence, or would I find the courage to confront my past? Rebecca took a deep breath as she stepped forward, her heart pounding. The room was filled with the faint scent of rain on pavement, the low rustle of leaves outside mingling with hushed conversations. Her eyes scanned the faces, families, old friends, strangers, all waiting for her to speak. She was supposed to confront her estranged family to finally face the truth she'd avoided for years. But just as she opened her mouth, darkness swallowed the room. A flicker of light revealed a hidden mirror panel behind her, and in that mirror she saw her reflection. Not as she was now, but as she could have been. A brave soldier, smiling in military insignia, confident, free. The familiar faces around her seemed to shift, their gazes now filled with suspicion. The truth hit her like a gust of wind. What she'd been chasing was a lie. The family portrait she idolized? A fabricated memory, manipulated by someone close all along. And suddenly, everything changed. Who was she really? Would she embrace her past, or let it define her? The stakes had never been higher. Rebecca stood silent in the dim hallway, the scent of polished wood and faint perfume swirling around her. The echoes of laughter from the party faded into a heavy, unspoken stillness. She remembered her father's stern face, how disappointment felt like a weight pressing on her chest. The warmth of his embrace, the feeling of being loved unconditionally, seemed like a distant dream now, replaced by this cold wall of estrangement. A single tear escaped, tracing a slow path down her cheek, as blurred faces from her past flickered in her mind. The laughter, the proud looks, they blurred into haunting reminders of everything she's lost. She whispers quietly to herself, "Is this what it means to be accepted?" Her heart pounds. The battle with family, identity, purpose, all collide in this quiet moment. Warm light flickers on her reflection in a nearby mirror. For just a second, she sees her true self, a soldier, resilient, brave, still fighting to belong. Slowly, she takes a breath. The fight isn't over. Not yet. Rebecca stands at the edge of the dimly lit room, clutching a torn photograph of her family. Halves misaligned, memories fractured. The weight of years of estrangement presses down hard. A faint knock echoes through the silence, immediately piercing her focus. Her heart pounds, palms sweating. She's no stranger to difficult choices. Behind her, shadows flicker on the wall, hinting at long-buried secrets lurking just beneath the surface. Breathing shallow, she questions herself. Should she open that door, or retreat into the quiet safety of her solitude? There's a moment of pure tension, thick enough to cut. What truth awaits beyond? Will she confront the turmoil, for herself, for her past, or let the silence swallow her whole? Just beyond that threshold lies an answer she's avoided, yet can't escape forever. Her hand hovers, trembles, and waits. Inside, her thoughts swirl, doubts, memories, hopes deferred. The scent of rain drifts in from the street, mingling with her nerves. She's faced battles before, fought through doubt, resilience pushing her forward. But this moment, so raw, so uncertain, is different. It's about meaning, belonging, redemption. The click of the door handle, slow, deliberate, could unlock her future or brand her forever with what she's kept hidden. Every second stretches, heavy with anticipation. The unknown looms, whispering, "Is today the day she finally confronts her truth? Or will she retreat into the familiarity of silence where fears remain unspoken? One choice, and everything changes." Rebecca's hand hesitates, her mind racing. The night feels alive with possibility. Outside, the rain softens, but inside, her heart races. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what's to come. Whatever's behind that door, she'll face it. The room felt heavy with unspoken words, like a static charge in the air. Rebecca's heart pounded, her palms sweaty, staring into Barbara's eyes. Years of silence hung between them, thick and oppressive. Shadows flickered along the walls, as if they carried secrets long buried. Then Rebecca broke the silence with a shaky voice. "What if I told you I found something?" Her words hung, trembling with a mix of fear and hope. Barbara's face shifted, curiosity flickering behind her stoic expression. The tension crackled, silent yet deafening. The scent of rain seeped inside through the cracked window, mixing with the nervous energy in the room. A single question lingered. Are they ready to face what's been hidden all this time? Or will fear keep them locked in the past? Rebecca's hand hovered over the door handle, her pulse racing. She knew, whatever lay beyond, it could change everything. The air grew thicker, every second stretched out, waiting for the moment to unfold. Her breath hitched. Outside, the rain softened, but inside, her heart thundered. Should she open it? Or walk away, safe inside her doubts? One step, one choice, and the future could shift forever. She froze, listening to the faint rustle of leaves outside. The night was quiet, yet inside, her mind was racing, torn between what she knew and what she still needed to discover. The truth was there, waiting, and it refused to stay hidden much longer. Rebecca sat at the table, the smell of old paper drifting through the room. It took her back, to her childhood home, where walls were lined with faded family photos, laughter and love, now silenced by years of silence. She could almost hear her mother's voice, soft yet firm, urging her to stand tall. The warm sunshine streamed through the window, contrasting sharply with the cold distance that had grown between them. Why did everything change? The whisper of the wind outside, carrying rain scent and rustling leaves, hid the truth. She was left to grapple with the heavy weight of her past. In that moment, her mind raced. How did she go from a girl full of hope to someone so conflicted? Was it betrayal? Expectations? Or just the cost of trying to fit in? She wondered. Did her family ever really know her? Or was she just pretending to be someone she's not? Every part of her felt torn. Loyalty versus desire, duty versus her own truth. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding. The scent of rain hit her nostrils again. Outside, the world moved on, indifferent. Inside, she felt frozen, uncertain if she could ever truly reconcile her past with her present. But part of her knew one thing. She couldn't stay silent forever. Her story was waiting to be told. The question was, could she find the strength to face it? Or would she keep running from what she never wanted to confront? Every second stretched, thick with silence, until she finally whispered to herself, "It's time. Time to decide. Time to reveal the truth she's kept hidden. Because one way or another, her past and present couldn't stay apart forever." The storm outside began to fade, leaves settling quietly. But inside, her resolve grew. She knew the next step, no matter how difficult, would define her future, and she was ready to face it. The night was thick with tension, the city lights flickering below like forgotten dreams. Rebecca stepped into the dimly lit room, her heart racing. Relief washed over her, until a hidden photograph on the mantel caught her eye. A familiar face smiled back, confident and carefree. Her breath caught. This wasn't just any picture. It was from her childhood. Suddenly, everything shifted. The memories she clung to began to unravel. Had her understanding of her past been manipulated? The very essence of her identity was at stake. The scent of rain wafted through the open window, mingling with the rustle of leaves outside, as if nature itself was urging her to confront the truth. She had spent years grappling with family estrangement, feeling torn between loyalty and her own desires. The warmth of her mother's voice echoed in her mind, urging her to stand tall. But why had everything changed? Was it betrayal? Expectations? Or simply the cost of trying to fit in? Rebecca felt frozen, the weight of her past pressing down on her. Outside, the world moved on, indifferent to her struggle. Inside, she was a storm of emotions, questioning if she could ever reconcile her past with her present. But deep down, she knew she couldn't stay silent forever. Her story was waiting to be told. As she whispered to herself, "It's time." The storm outside began to fade. Leaves settled quietly, but her resolve grew stronger. She was ready to face the truth she had kept hidden. The next step, no matter how difficult, would define her future. A few patrons nursed drinks in corners, the city lights blinking far below like broken promises. The wind tugged gently at the hem of her jacket. She spotted Andrew leaning against the railing, a glass of amber liquid half-finished in his hand. He didn't look like a man who'd just said, "I do." He looked like a man realizing the weight of his choices. "I didn't think you'd come," he said, not turning to face her. "You asked," she replied, stepping closer. He nodded slowly. "Didn't mean you'd say yes." He looked older, not in his face but in his stance, more tired, less armored. "You want to talk about Helmond?" she asked. He turned to face her. "You saved my life. That's old news." "Not to me." A pause stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. "She doesn't know, does she?" Rebecca asked. He shook his head. "I never told Haley about the minefield, about what you did. I knew she'd twist it into some fable." Rebecca felt the weight of his words. "Why?" "Because I owed you, and because I respected you more than anyone I've ever met." "Then why marry her?" He was quiet for a long time. "Because she was easy. Because the Coles offered a kind of life that felt clean, ordered. I was tired of almost dying. I wanted safe." "She's not safe. She's strategy." He laughed softly, a sound tinged with regret. "Yeah. I figured that out about a week after the engagement." Rebecca watched him, her heart aching for the man she once knew. "You know she sent in the tip, right? The one that stalled my first star." He closed his eyes, gripping the railing tighter, knuckles whitening. "I always suspected, but I didn't want to be sure." "I am," she said, her voice steady. "I stood up last night," he confessed, "because if I didn't, I'd become one of them." In that moment, Rebecca realized they were both fighting their own battles, each struggling to reclaim their identities in a world that sought to define them. The storm inside her began to calm, and she knew she was ready to face whatever came next. He looked at me, really looked, and for a fleeting moment I saw the man I pulled from the dirt, not broken, but burdened. I didn't say thank you. Instead, I said, "Don't ever let my name protect yours again." They tried to define me in whispers, but I decided to speak loud enough to echo. Reagan National always smelled like coffee and urgency. The rolling wheels, gate calls, and the hum of strangers trying to be somewhere else felt oddly comforting. Airports didn't ask questions. They just checked IDs and moved on. I was 20 minutes early for my flight, dressed in civilian clothes, hair loose, duffels slung over one shoulder. I had no intention of being seen, but I should have known better. Halfway to the TSA checkpoint, the first flash went off. Then another. Voices overlapped, sharp and unavoidable. "General Cole, can we get a comment on the wedding incident?" "Ma'am, were you aware the bride would make that statement?" Is it true the groom served under your command? I paused for just a breath. That's all they needed. Suddenly, I was surrounded. A loose semicircle of microphones, smartphones, and two eager faces trying to balance curiosity with respect. A security officer stepped forward, but I raised a hand. Not now, not yet. I spotted a podium off to the side, one of those flimsy setups near the flag and outdated tourism brochures. I walked toward it. No one followed at first, unsure whether I was about to speak or explode. When I turned to face them, silence fell. I know why you're here, I began, and I know what you want. A quote, a reaction, a headline, something sharp enough to slice, soft enough to sell. They waited, eyes wide. I met their gaze one by one. I'm not my family's failure, I declared, my voice steady. I am their silence made visible. The room shifted. The press blinked. No one was typing. They were listening. For years, I served my country while being written out of my own story. I wore a uniform while being told I stained the family name. The air thickened with tension as questions swirled around me, each one a dagger aimed at my carefully constructed facade. The flashing lights felt like a spotlight on my hidden scars, and I could feel the weight of my family's expectations pressing down. My heart raced, caught between the urge to flee and the need to confront the truth. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a familiar face emerged from the crowd, one I never expected to see again. What would they reveal about my past? The air was thick with tension. Every eye in the room locked onto Rebecca. Her pulse thundered in her ears, a steady drumbeat of uncertainty. Did they see her? Did they notice the tremor in her voice? Or was she just another face lost in the crowd? The question hung heavy, unspoken but deafening. When the ones you trust most become your fiercest enemies, what's left? Rebecca's hand trembled as she clenched her jaw, fighting the storm inside her. For a moment, the silence stretched, thick as fog. Would she reveal the raw truth or hide behind silence? Every second felt suspended, like a wire stretched to its limit. A single breath could break it all. And just as she opened her mouth, a whisper from the shadows. Who else was watching? Who else knew her secrets? The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The truth was close, too close to ignore. Would she speak, or walk away into the storm? One thing was clear. Nothing was the same anymore. In the tense silence that hung over the room, Rebecca Cole took a steady breath. Her voice cut through the thick air, clear and unwavering. She knew the weight of this moment, and this was more than just a proposal. It was a battle for her very identity. As she laid out her plan, an unspoken fracture in the chain of command, a need to protect soldiers from betrayal, her words echoed like a rallying cry. Just as she gained momentum, a flicker of doubt crossed her face. The room grew colder. From the back, Admiral Kshner's voice sliced through the silence, condescending, dismissive. And what makes you think your personal struggles qualify you to dictate policy? His words felt like a slap. Her confidence wavered, shadowed by the unspoken truth. Beneath her disciplined exterior, Rebecca's fight isn't just for these soldiers, it's for herself. She pauses, and in that pause, an unspoken question lingers. What if her past, her hidden scars, are the real reason she's here? Her gaze hardens, sparks igniting her resolve. The room's atmosphere shifts. This isn't just about policy. It's about challenging bias, breaking barriers, reclaiming her voice. And in that moment, Rebecca realizes. This is her fight. One not just for her career, but for her true identity, against a system that often refuses to see her. Rebecca steps into what she believes is her mother's peaceful garden. Quiet, serene, a place of soft memories. But something's off. As she moves through the blooming daffodils, a faint scent of rain lingers in the air, mingling with the earthy perfume of damp soil. Her gaze falls on a familiar object tucked between the vibrant petals, an old military badge, tarnished but unmistakable. Her breath catches. The distant echoes of family stories bubble up, long buried but never fully gone. A burning realization surfaces. Her brother, presumed dead, was far from the quiet, lost soul she thought she knew. He was involved in covert operations. Her entire understanding of her past and herself starts to crack. Reconciling with her family's roots isn't just about forgiveness anymore. It's about facing the hidden truths that threaten to redefine her. Can she accept the shadowy side of her family and find her true place? Or will the weight of secrets pull her under? In that moment, everything shifts. What she thought was a simple reunion turns into a journey into the depths of her identity. The garden isn't peaceful anymore. It's a battlefield, held between hope and chaos. When Rebecca finally looks closer at the badge, her hand trembles, her heartbeat quickens. Her mind races. How much does she really know? How much has been kept from her? The past isn't just a story. It's alive, hidden in the soil of her family's legacy. Could this be the key to understanding her conflicted soul? Or will it fracture her even further? She pauses, breath hitching as the truth edges closer, demanding to be seen. The garden, once a symbol of peace, now feels charged, dangerous, electric. The past isn't gone. It never really was. And as shadows dance across her face, a quiet question lingers. What if her pursuit of reconciliation uncovers more than she ever bargained for? What if her journey isn't just about mending bonds, but confronting the very core of her identity? Her heart pounds louder. The secrets threaten to spill, rewriting her story in ways she's never imagined. This isn't just a story of family. It's a battle for truth, for peace, for belonging. And Rebecca must decide. Will she run from the shadows, or step into them, emerge stronger, and finally find her real place in the world? Her path ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The past isn't finished with her yet. There was a pause long enough to stretch between us like a canyon, then a soft creak from the stairs. Haley. She stood halfway down barefoot, a robe tied loose around her waist. Her eyes met mine. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. Barbara noticed. She hasn't been the same since the wedding. She never had to be anything I said. She got to just exist. I had to survive. Barbara swallowed hard. Is there anything I can do now? Yes, I said. Don't rewrite my story after I'm gone. She blinked. If someone asks why I don't come home, don't tell them I was distant. If they ask what happened, don't say it was complicated. Tell them you made a choice. And so did I. Barbara reached for something. Maybe a hand, maybe a past version of me, but I was already standing. I have a flight, I said. Haley didn't move. Her grip on the banister was the only thing steady. I walked to the door. My boots didn't echo like they used to on this floor. Funny what time erases and what it refuses to touch. I left without hugging her, but I didn't slam the door. That, too, was a choice. Reputation is what they say when you're gone. Legacy is what remains when they're silent. The folding chairs were mismatched. Some wobbled. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed faintly, casting the room in a soft, democratic kind of glow. No rank here. No hierarchy. Just people battered, a little bent, maybe, but unbroken. The community center smelled of burnt coffee and determination. I liked it. I stood at the front sleeves, rolled just enough to show I wasn't here as a general, but not so far that I forgot I ever was. The Resilience Foundation banner hung crooked behind me, the corners tugged down by old tape, but the message printed on it was clear. We don't erase the wounded. We empower them. About 30 people had shown up, some in uniform, others in street clothes. One woman wore a name tag that simply read, V. I cleared my throat. You are not what they said you are, I began. Rebecca Cole knew what it meant to be disciplined, resilient, brave. But today, she felt something deeper, conflicted. As she stepped into her late father's cluttered study, memories drifted like a rain scent in the air. She's here to sort through his belongings, to find answers she's avoided for years. Her hands tremble as she touches a dusty box hidden beneath familiar photographs. Curious, she pulls it out. Inside, a military journal, crumpled pages, ink faded but legible, reveals her family's secret. Her father, not just a veteran, but a double agent. The room goes silent. She flips through pages detailing covert missions, clandestine alliances. Her breath catches. Her understanding of loyalty shatters. This isn't just about her personal struggle. It's a web of hidden allegiances rooted in her bloodline, something she never expected. The shock hits as her world shifts, questioning everything she thought she knew about family, duty, and truth. Standing there, heart pounding, Rebecca's resolve hardens. She's confronted not only her past but her own sense of identity, fighting to reconcile who she was with who she must become. In that quiet, heavy room, she begins to realize her story is connected to something much bigger, a secret that could change everything. Why was she kept in the dark? How long has her family been tangled in lies? The answers are here, buried in the shadows of her history. Now, she must decide whether to walk away or confront the truth head-on. Because sometimes, understanding your roots means facing a truth that could upend your entire future. And if not now, when? The stage was bare, just a glass of water and a single flag behind me. I didn't need notes. Barbara was out there somewhere, close to the front, but I hadn't seen her arrive. She'd come alone, leaving Haley behind. I stepped up to the mic, and a hush fell over the crowd. It wasn't just silence. It was the kind reserved for those who've walked through fire and emerged unscathed. I recalled a saying, "Blood is thicker than water." I began, as if that were a comfort, as if drowning in blood hurt less. A ripple passed through the room. Families, I continued, are meant to protect us, to shield us. But sometimes they choose silence. Sometimes the betrayal comes not from a foreign enemy, but from someone who shares your last name, your childhood bedroom. The air tightened. I've learned that the most dangerous betrayal isn't loud. It's polite. It wears a smile at weddings and goes silent at funerals. It masquerades as loyalty but demands your disappearance. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in, and I disappeared for years. Not out of shame, but because I was punished for speaking when they wanted me quiet. I refused to be the story they needed to survive. A few gasps echoed in the room. Barbara, I knew, was crying now. She'd practiced silence for so long that even her tears were noiseless. I scanned the sea of faces. Young, old, some in uniform, others not. So many had come not for policy, but for permission to be angry, to be visible, to be loud. That ends today, I declared. I'm working with lawmakers to introduce federal protections for those betrayed, not by the system, but from within it. A bill that recognizes that sabotage doesn't always come from the outside. Family, if weaponized, is still a threat. I stepped back from the mic, allowing the room to catch its breath. I was once their secret, I said. Now I am their sentence. The room didn't erupt. It exhaled. As I stood there, I felt the weight of my own story pressing down. Rebecca Cole knew what it meant to be disciplined, resilient, brave. But today, she felt something deeper, conflicted. Stepping into her late father's cluttered study, memories drifted like the scent of rain. She was here to sort through his belongings, to find answers she'd avoided for years. Her hands trembled as she touched a dusty box hidden beneath familiar photographs. Curious, she pulled it out. Inside lay a military journal, crumpled pages, ink faded but legible, revealing her family's secret. Her father, not just a veteran, but a double agent. The room went silent. She flipped through pages detailing covert missions, clandestine alliances. Her breath caught. Her understanding of loyalty shattered. This wasn't just about her personal struggle. It was a web of hidden allegiances rooted in her bloodline, something she never expected. The shock hit as her world shifted, questioning everything she thought she knew about family, duty, and truth. Standing there, heart pounding, Rebecca's resolve hardened. She confronted not only her past but her own sense of identity, fighting to reconcile who she was with who she must become. In that quiet, heavy room, she began to realize her story was connected to something much bigger, a secret that could change everything. Why was she kept in the dark? How long had her family been tangled in lies? The answers were here, buried in the shadows of her history. Now, she must decide whether to walk away or confront the truth head-on. Because sometimes, understanding your roots means facing a truth that could upend your entire future. And, if not now, when? As Rebecca stood on the edge of the cliff, the salty breeze tousled her hair, carrying echoes of laughter from her childhood. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the waves crashing below, each splash a reminder of family gatherings long past. She could almost hear her mother's voice, warm and inviting, urging her to embrace her true self. The scent of fresh lemons from the nearby grove mingled with the ocean air, stirring a bittersweet nostalgia within her. In that moment, the weight of estrangement felt lighter, as if the sea was washing away the shadows of her past. A collective letting go of something too long. As I stepped off the stage, a young reporter caught me near the curtain. "Would you ever go back to them?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "I never left myself," I said. That was enough. I used to live to be seen. Now I've learned how to see myself clearly and without permission. The shutters creaked softly as the sea breeze slipped through them, carrying the scent of salt and lemons. Afternoon light spilled across the stone floor of the cottage, warming everything it touched. The waves below whispered against the Amalfi cliffs as if the coastline itself was exhaling. I had painted all morning. Nothing grand, just brushstrokes across canvas, color where there once was only shadow. The easel stood near the window, facing the horizon, the unfinished sky waiting patiently. I didn't rush. There was no schedule here, no command briefings, no deadlines, only the rhythm of the sea and the pages of a leather-bound journal slowly filling with pieces of myself I hadn't known I'd lost. The knock came just past 4. It was Luca, the boy from the village, no older than 10, holding a basket with bread, olives, and a folded newspaper I hadn't asked for. His smile was gap-toothed, his curiosity barely contained. "Grazie," I said, taking the basket. "PGO," he replied, shifting on his feet. "Sora, were you really a general?" I paused, then smiled. "Once, now I'm just someone who fought for herself." He seemed satisfied with that and ran off before I could say more. Back inside, my phone buzzed. The old Army-issued device, I'd kept it out of habit, tucked in a drawer that now held fading lanyards and medals I never displayed. The voice message was from General Simmons. "Rebecca," he said, tone measured. "The President's Community Center wants to appoint you to the Joint Ethics Board. You'd chair it if you're willing. Think about it." I listened once, then deleted it. There's a particular freedom in knowing you no longer owe your story to anyone. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows, I couldn't shake the feeling that my past was still calling. Would I answer, or would I let the waves carry it away, like so many memories lost to time? The choice was mine, and the weight of it hung in the air, heavy yet liberating. Rebecca stood at the edge of her childhood home, dusk creeping in around her. The scent of earth and lingering regret hung heavy in the air. Her fists clenched, voice trembling as she finally confronted her estranged father, a moment years in the making. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken pain. She took a shaky breath, feeling the weight of her broken past. Tears streamed down her face, dripping like rain, but then something shifted. Anguish softened into fragile hope. She let go of resentment, choosing vulnerability over anger. Her trembling voice broke the silence. "Dad, I've missed you." In that trembling confession, she reclaimed her strength, her story. The past no longer shadows her. Instead, she steps forward, lighter, freer. The storm within begins to settle, replaced by a quiet resolve. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is simply show up, even when the world seems ready to break us.